All right, welcome. Today, we're jumping into a story that basically flips the script on everything you thought you knew about innovation. It's this amazing paradox from the world of tech, and it all boils down to one simple question. Okay, picture this. There's a race to build the future of semiconductor tech. In one corner, you've got this nimble, agile team, right? Led by all the big industry giants. And in the other corner, a slow-moving, top-down, state-run bureaucracy. So who are you putting your money on? Well, I'm going to tell you, the real-life answer is probably not what you're expecting. So let's meet our two contenders. Over in the US, you had SEMATECH. This was an industry-led consortium, super bottom-up, flexible, basically everything Silicon Valley just loves. And then in Taiwan, you had ITRI. Totally different. State-led, top-down, bureaucratic. I mean, on paper, this shouldn't even be a contest, right? But here's the crazy part. By 2015, SEMATECH had pretty much faded away, just absorbed into academia. Meanwhile, ITRI wasn't just thriving, it was spinning off some of the world's most important tech companies. How in the world did that happen? And this, right here, is what we're calling the innovation paradox. Because, the outcome just does not line up with what anyone would have predicted. Now, this is what's so interesting. It really gets to the heart of the mystery here. See, most organizational theories back then, they would have bet everything on SEMATECH. They all preached that you needed these flexible, self-organizing systems to create radical, game-changing innovation. But then comes ITRI, the stable, structured underdog, and it just proved them all wrong. Okay, so to crack this paradox, we've got to understand what ITRI was built on. And that all starts with its powerful and, surprisingly effective efficiency engine. When we hear the word bureaucracy, our minds immediately go to red tape, endless forms, a total nightmare, right? With the sociologist Max Weber, he saw it completely differently. He argued that a rational bureaucracy, one that's based on clear rules and technical skill, not who you know or political favors, is actually the most efficient way to get complex stuff done. And this idea, it's the first key to unlocking ITRI. And this is just a brilliant illustration of how ITRI put that theory into action. Think about it. Their bureaucracy acted like a shield. It protected long-term research from the short-term pressures of quarterly profits and political meddling. They hired the absolute best minds based on pure merit, not connections. They became this central hub so the whole country wasn't wasting money and time trying to solve the exact same problems. And maybe most importantly, every single project was laser-focused on clear national goals. So see, it wasn't red tape, it was more like a focusing lens. All right, now let's add another piece to this efficiency engine, Frederick Taylor's concept of scientific management. The idea behind it is actually pretty simple but so powerful. Stop relying on old habits and guesswork. Instead, you find the one best way to do any task through measurement, standardization, and documentation. It's basically about creating the ultimate recipe for success and then following it. And here is a perfect, real-world example of that in action. The famous RCA technology transfer back in the 70s. Look, ITRI didn't just send engineers to America to learn how to make computer chips. No, they sent the absolute best of the best, and they had a very specific mission. Don't just learn how to do it, document every single step. They turned all that hands-on knowledge into formal written rules, standard operating procedures. What they created was a repeatable recipe that could then be handed off to Taiwanese companies, instantly leveling up the entire nation's tech game. Okay, so ITRI was this hyper-efficient machine. We get that. But we all know efficiency by itself doesn't create world-changing innovation. For that, you need flexibility. You need agility. And that brings us to the other half of the story, the secret to agility. And this is where James Thomson's contingency theory comes into play. And honestly, this is the master key that unlocks the whole puzzle. Thomson basically argued that there is no single best way to organize a company. The right structure is contingent. It depends completely on the environment you're in and the task you're trying to do. It's not about being rigid or flexible. It's about being the right kind of organized for the job. And this is the aha moment. Just look at this. ITTRI was basically two different organizations running at the same time. At the very top, the strategic level, it was a classic, stable, centralized hierarchy, totally focused on the long-term national vision. But down at the operational level, inside the individual research labs, it was the complete opposite. It was decentralized, semi-independent, and intensely competitive. I mean, labs were even competing against each other for industry contracts. So the key takeaway here is this incredibly powerful combination. They built a system where the labs had all the freedom in the world to innovate, to collaborate, to respond to the market. But they were never just wandering aimlessly, because the mothership, that top-level bureaucracy, was providing the stable vision, that North Star. It was both rigid and flexible all at the same time. And the results of this unique model? Well, they really speak for themselves. This system didn't just work. It was a literal factory for creating global tech giants. Companies like UMC, a huge player in chip manufacturing, and, well, another one you've probably heard of. The year was 1987, and that's the year ITRI spun off a project that would go on to change the world, TSMC. Yeah, arguably the most important company on the entire planet today, and it was born from a bureaucracy. Just let that sink in. So, what's the ultimate lesson we can take away from ITRI's incredible story? Well, that brings us to our final section, the rigidly flexible model. Let's just quickly recap the core principles here. First, true, groundbreaking innovation can absolutely flourish inside a structured system. The magic happens when you combine that top-down strategic stability with bottom-up operational freedom. It's about using bureaucracy as a shield to protect your big, long-term goals, not as a cage to trap them. And it's about treating technology like a recipe that you can perfect and then share. The lesson is, the best structure is almost never a pure model. It's a smart hybrid. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a world that is completely obsessed with buzzwords like agility and disruption, maybe the story of ITRI teaches us something much, much deeper. Perhaps the future of innovation isn't just about moving fast. Maybe it's about building organizations that can be both stable and dynamic at the same time. Not just agility, but structured adaptability.